So, the Hellfire Dripper. It's the only reason Paul is in the room right now, because he hates my show. But, but he wanted to see me review the Hellfire Dripper. The Hellfire Dripper is a 20 millimeter atomizer. Come on. Autofocus. Work with me, baby. Come on. Come on now. You can do it. There it is. So that right there is the Hellfire Dripper. You can see it's got some light groove pattern in there. I've also got the Hellfire drip tip on there, which is not the same metal. It's titanium. It's a stainless steel device. They are handmade on a lathe by Hellfire, also known as Darren. I'm just kidding, Paul. It's 20 millimeter, so again, if you have a 20 millimeter mod, and there are a couple of them available these days, like the Precise Plus is actually close to 20 millimeter. I think it's like 20.5, so that's a close fit. But the Mancos, there's a 20 millimeter version of that. The My Point is 20 millimeter, as you can see. Looks really, really nice on a 20 millimeter. So the price on this, getting it retail straight from Darren, which I was lucky enough to do, is 72 British pounds, including shipping. So you're looking at a little over $100 for a handmade dripping atomizer, which is pretty sweet. So let's show what this guy looks like under the hood. Hold on a sec. It is a very, very snug fit, so bear with me one moment. I actually have to lube up the threads a little bit when I put it back on. My goodness. Almost there. There we go. So this is what it looks like under the top cap. It is a 20 millimeter, and it has a reduced chamber in the top. Very similar to the reduced chamber of the Hellfire Mega, if you're familiar with that. Hold on. I'm just going to take autofocus off for the close-up. One moment. So this is what the inside of the top cap looks like. As you can see, it has been reduced slightly. There's a little bit of extra metal in the top to help reduce the internal chamber, which helps to warm the vapor and gives the vapor less room to circulate and cool. Alright. It has a 1 millimeter air hole on there, so it's got a pretty tight draw. You get a ton of flavor with a tight draw like that, though, so we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Now, underneath the hood, it's pretty simple. It's a dripper, so it's not particularly complicated. You have a stainless steel ground, and you also have a brass positive screw there. It's all stainless steel except for the contact point there, which is brass. I've got it set up with a little mesh U-wick, as you can see there, and I used flat ribbon Canthol on there. And I really, really like the vape that I'm getting from flat ribbon in combination with stainless steel mesh inside these drippers. That's how I've been setting all of them up, actually. So it's just a little thumb screw right there. It looks a little gross because it's got juice buildup all over it, but I should probably clean that. And as you can see, there's the stainless steel negative screw as well. There's also a little bit of a lip around the edge that helps hold a little bit of extra juice. And yeah, and you can set this up with silica. You could set it up with dual coil if you wanted to. You'd have to set the coils up opposing on opposite sides of the posts. Hold on one sec, turning off autofocus. There we go. And yeah, so it's got the little lip like I mentioned. Standard 510 connection that has an adjustable screw on the inside of the base. I'll show that to you here in just 1 second. Alright, here's the part where I said I lube up the thread a little bit with some spit. Yum. Just because the top cap is extremely tight on those O-rings. So, make sure that's, oops. Make sure that's all lined up right. There we go. And we're back in business. There we go. So, let me take a vape on this real quick before I continue with the review. Alright. The My Point, I think, is a pinky up mod. So, let me show you the bottom real quick. As I mentioned, it has an adjustable screw on the bottom. Stainless steel contact there. You don't really need to see that zoomed in. It's just a stainless steel flathead screw. I assure you that's what it is, even though you can't see it without me turning off autofocus. So, you know, standard 510 threading. Haven't had any issues with threading onto any devices. The height of the thread seemed to be pretty standard. So, you know, I haven't had any issues with it fitting flush on stuff. As you can see, it looks really nice and fits flush on the My Point here. And yeah, let's talk a little bit about, well, let me just talk about kind of Hellfire in general real quick before I talk about the vape quality and positives and negatives and all that stuff. So, Hellfires are very highly sought after devices. You know, lists go up on Vape Pit and they're full within hours, and then cut off. They're not produced very quickly. The guy who makes these, Hellfire, over on Vape Pit, his name's Darren. He doesn't make a ton of the devices. He's doing it more almost as a, I don't think it's a hobby. I guess it is a hobby, but you know, I don't. While I do read Vape Pit, I don't follow you know, the Hellfire dumb maybe as much as I should, but he puts a lot of effort into these devices, and you can really tell by the quality of the vape. You know, the looks are, in my personal opinion, they don't, you know, the Hellfire Mega and the Hellfire Mini and everything, I don't think they look particularly interesting. But the vape quality, because of the way that they're designed, is exceptional. Now, they're not going to be for everyone. One of the things about these devices is they're designed for maximum flavor. So if you're looking to have a device with a big open draw, a large air hole, you know, something that's going to create just ridiculous plumes of vapor, it's not for you unless you're going to bore it out, which kind of defeats the purpose, in my opinion. If you're looking for something that has exceptional, sharp, hot flavor, the Hellfires are tough to beat. Now, and because of that, and because of the rarity, and because Darren is such a cool guy and a really nice guy, and because they're handmade, just all of these factors all together have turned this device and all of his devices into kind of what, you know, is commonly referred to in the industry as a unicorn, because they're tough to get. So I kind of hemmed and hawed a little bit about whether I wanted to review this on the show or not, because, as you guys know, I don't like to review stuff that's not at least in production. You know, I mean, I do review some stuff on the show that is tougher to get. I understand that, but I try to avoid reviewing things that are not being produced, like one-offs, stuff like that. So, I kind of hemmed and hawed, but, at the end of the day, there are lists for these devices. He's going to eventually open up another list for the Hellfire Dripper. It will be available. Hopefully it'll help you make a decision in the 15 minutes that you have to sign up on the list before it's closed about whether you want one of these or not. So, anyway, there's my little rant about Hellfire. Actually, it's not really a rant. It's all pretty much all positive. But the guy makes phenomenal devices is the bottom line. The flavor is amazing. As far as like a single coil Genesis style atomizer, I still haven't had a device that had as good a flavor as the Hellfire Mini. Dual coil, yes. I found the Mini Micro and the Arrow to have exceptional warmth and flavor. But as far as the single coil setup, Hellfire Mini is still the one to beat in my opinion. But anyway, so the Hellfire Dripper is what we're talking about right now, though. So, I was very excited when I got the message from Mrs. Hellfire, who's the one who, sends out PMs to people that are on the list and says, hey, it's time for you to pay. We're going to ship your device if you still want it. It's like, absolutely. And I have had this for a while now, and I have been using this thing like crazy because I can't stop. I have had a really difficult time taking it out of my rotation. If you actually go back, and I think I was using this on a review of a different mod, either last week or the show before that, I don't know, but I've had it for a few weeks now, even though I haven't reviewed it, and I've been using the hell out of it because it's just phenomenal and I can't put it down. The flavor is just ridiculous. So anyway, how does it vape? Like I said, the flavor is ridiculous. I really like the setup that I use, which is the U-Wick mesh setup. I'm actually using 200 mesh, and like I said, I'm using flat Canthal. It's flat Canthal D, 0.8 millimeter wide. It's from that German site zivip.com. If you're interested in buying it, they have all different types of. They have all different widths there. Take another vape. So you can see the vapor, I mean, it's still good. The vapor production's good. It's just not these stupid plumes of vapor that you get with a larger, more airy draw. But, if you're worried about that, then this isn't the device for you. If you're worried about getting the most delicious, flavorful vape that you can, then this is the device for you. I find that the draw is not too tight. It's just on the tight. It's at the tightest end of my range of preference for draw on my atomizers. I like 1 millimeter to at the absolute most 1.3, and that's kind of a stretch. I really prefer 1 to 1.2. I always say 1.2 is my sweet spot, but this device I don't think I like it better as a 1 millimeter. I don't think it would be as good if it were a 1.2 millimeter. So, yeah, the flavor is absolutely exceptional. There's really nothing more I can say about that. I don't have a ton of experience with drippers. I've used half a dozen different drippers. This is just slightly more flavorful than the Griffin, which I think is another exceptional dripper. That has its own benefits, the Griffin, that are some things that are different about it than this device. But this one takes the cake as far as the flavor is concerned. It's absolutely phenomenal. I'm actually gonna drip a little more juice in here and take another vape before we talk about positives and negatives. So, pros, like I said, flavor, amazing. Easy to set up. I didn't have any issues setting it up, even with the the U-Wick setup and the flat ribbon. I didn't have any problems getting it set up. There's plenty of room in there. It's got a little bit of a lip on it, but not enough that it makes it difficult to work with. The negatives, I find I mean, and this would be easily rectified with a slightly smaller O-ring. I do find that the O-ring is a little bit too snug. I mean, it's good that it's snug. The top cap's not going to pop off on you, but it's just a tiny bit too snug. I really, really have to yank, and a lot of times what'll happen is I'll pull on it really hard and then kind of pull it off at an angle, and it'll catch the wick and pull the wick up a little bit, and then that's why, I don't know if you saw when I was showing the coil up close, but there was actually a little piece of the wick that kind of like tore and bent up a little bit. That was actually from me pulling the top cap off. It got caught on it a little bit. But I mean, not a huge deal though. So, and if you do have issues with it being just a little bit too snug, then put a slightly smaller O-ring on there, and you should be fine. It doesn't hold a lot of juice, but it's a dripper, so if you're going to be using a dripper, you should expect to have to drip, of course, on a fairly regular basis. It's not designed to hold a ton like you know, like the Griffin and Prometei are with that raised air tank, or the raised airflow, so it doesn't hold as much juice as that, but you know, but the flavor is unparalleled. I'm gonna take another vape real quick before we wrap this up. So, do I recommend it? Absolutely. This gets a huge thumbs up from me. I really love the Hellfire dripper. I will be hanging on to this. This has actually become my go-to device for tasting different juices, and I've been using it. And you know, I didn't think I would find myself going back to dripping again, but I'm enjoying the flavor from it so much that I'm thoroughly enjoying dripping again. So, so yeah, there you go. That's the Hellfire dripper. I know the review, half of it was a rant, but hopefully that gets the point across.